Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so it's about, what is it, halftime of the Laker game, somewhere close to it. Uh, and I'm just thinking about something. Ain't got nothing to do with basketball, so bear with me. I think I'll probably make this a therapy session. But yeah, man, I saw the footage from Uvalde. That's what I'm commenting on. Well, not all of it because it's an hour worth of footage, but the footage that I saw was the first 20 minutes, and I think the guy that I was watching, he fast forward 20 minutes into the video to like the last 10 minutes, and I think that's how that went or something like that. So I saw enough to know what took place when when the murderer initially arrived at the school, and then from there just the footage of them, the cops arriving, and what took place. Um, you guys know I've been a security guard for a nice long chunk of change, um, and there's a lot that goes into a situation like that. I've never been a part of, so I can't speak to um, what should happen in such situations like that from a training standpoint. I've never been trained for nothing like that. Um, but I do know how sensitive it is, and I can understand why there would be some apprehension to just bust through the door and start shooting in an elementary school. I understand that because the fear is you go in there shooting off rounds and you hit a child and it's a wrap, just period. As a cop, it's a person, you have to live with that, etc. It's all bad from there. So I know that's what them dudes is probably more so afraid about. I do believe that if there were no students in that school, they'd probably been able to apprehend him really quickly. Even those cowards, and I do call them cowards with intent on my heart when I say that. Even those cowards, I believe if there were no kids in there, they probably could have got to that guy. But because the kids were there, I think they were so apprehensive and scared about one of their strays hitting kids that they allowed that to petrify them. I really do believe that. And I also think that, as I said initially, that police force there was not prepared for that type of situation. They did not have what they needed to ensure that they could effectively do that kind of thing um, without it being like the biggest deal in the world for them. If this were a big city like Atlanta, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, I believe that you see the police handle that differently because they're more than likely to have dealt with something similar at some point in time. If not similar, they've dealt with high-powered situations on a regular enough basis to where they would probably not be as hesitant or as ill-prepared as these officers appeared to be. I think that the fact that they were in Uvalde had a lot to do with why things were handled so poorly. However, as a man, knowing that there were kids in there, knowing that I'm armed, knowing that I got like 30 people with me, you gotta rush the room. You gotta rush the room. Even as somebody who's not a guard, as someone who's not a guard, knowing that there are little kids in there and he in there shooting. Now, mind you, you could hear him shooting as the cops are standing there. You can hear him shooting. It's not a situation where you're hearing gunfire and the cops are going toward it. No, you're hearing gunfire and you're seeing cops look at each other. You got one cop who keeps touching his head as if he's been shot. Like he's more concerned about his own safety in that situation. He's constantly tapping his head like, I've been hit. There ain't no bullet coming his way from what I saw in the footage. Nothing even came his way. So that's just my point of view. Obviously something hit the man in the head, but it wasn't no bullet. So that type of thing, he's got I believe it was the same guard looking at his phone. You know what I mean? During the situation, I guess he was checking the time. It wasn't like he was, digging all into it, but he did, it appeared as if he checked the time on his phone. It's a bad look. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably not a bad idea because you want to know what time it is, right? Obviously. But it's just a bad look when you got gunshots ringing off and a cop holding a gun in that situation is even glancing at his phone instead of charging into the room, and saving children's lives. You know, after watching that, understanding what they were dealing with, but also understanding that there were kids in there dealing with even worse stuff, I don't really know if I have the right solution in my head for what those cops should go through, but I can say that them having their badges going forward is a disgrace. After what I saw, they should not be responsible for saving anyone's life or stopping anybody from doing anything dangerous. That's my God's honest opinion after watching what I saw there. Now, my anger and my frustration will say there should be more of a punishment, but I'm honestly not sure if I'm just too extreme or not. So I'm just going to forego how frustrated I am and just say those guys need to lose their jobs. But the people who were in charge of putting them in position to effectively handle a situation like that, they're training the people who trained them. Yeah, not only do they need to be fired, but the protocol that they follow needs to be thrown away. And it's garbage. Whatever that was that had them doing that, if there was a protocol that had them standing there, as more and more police, more and more different types of officials arrive, and they're still handling it in the same way. Even the new cops that come through that are supposed to back up the old cops, they appear to handle it similarly. They come in and they're hesitant. You hear gunshots and they're hesitant. They're protecting themselves instead of going in to protect the children. And my thing is this. I do respect that we need to keep our officers safe and that you want them to be able to make it home at night. But if the object of the game is for them to make it home at night and for children not to, I'm not paying tax dollars for that. I want my cops to be brave-hearted, and I want them to be able to risk their lives to protect children. You know, I respect the importance of having your numbers. You can't just throw your cops in there to get killed. These are men with families. You can't just have them walk into the line of fire and just take shots to the head. You know what I mean? I'm not asking you guys to do that. But we saw situations where they were waiting in the hallway for certain things to arrive. You know, for example, 10 minutes arrive, and then you see a sheriff come by and drop off one of those shields, a bullet shield. He comes through and he drops it off. He doesn't lift it up and take his gun and go toward the situation as he arrives. They set it out in front of the cops hiding behind walls, and they just stare at it, the armor itself. Like they're staring at the armor instead of picking it up and charging in the room. It's just such deep-rooted cowardice. You know, whether it's the cowardice of the men or the cowardice of the protocol that they're following. Either way, it was solely intent to prioritize the officer's well-being over the safety of those kids. And they left those kids in there with that monster for a good hour. And mind you, when he walks through the door, it takes all of 50 seconds for him to start shooting. As soon as he comes through the door, he walks in the hallway. Immediately, as soon as he disappears down the hallway, there's gunfire. You understand what I'm saying? He starts going into what it is that he's doing. Probably 10 minutes before the cops even arrive. The cops arrive and he's still in there with them, still shooting. 10, 15, 20 minutes. They bring the shield. The shield sits down. It's set in front of the cops where they're hiding. And they still are sitting there for after that for a good 25 minutes. More cops arrive, still shooting inside. More cops arrive. You see all types of guns. I'm not talking about handguns. They got machinery. They got assault rifles. The amount of armor, or rather artillery that they have, could very easily have taken down 3 or 4 armed men. And they were dealing with one untrained 18-year-old kid. In a classroom where, to be completely honest with you, there probably wasn't too many people left alive by the time the cops got there. In the room that he was in, it probably wasn't nobody left. And you consider what the damage that he was doing in there before they even got there, and the damage he was doing while they were standing there. They were protecting themselves. There probably wasn't even too many kids to save at that point in the room that he was barricaded in. That's the part that bothers me. And it's like they just really were concerned about their own selves. I'm just watching these guys. And the part that, that you sit there and you shake your head, it's like a lot of people bring up the race aspect of it. But every last one of those cops were brown. Every one of them. I'm like, those are brown kids in there. These are brown cops. How do you live with yourself? I couldn't be there. I could not be there following that protocol, knowing that I'm holding a gun here. I couldn't do it. I know me very well. I would have broke protocol one way or another. I know I would have. And I'd have been screaming at all of them men in that room, all of them, and I'd have said, you are all cowards, and you're going to live with this for the rest of your lives. I'd have said it to them, each and every one of them. I'd have looked at them all in their faces and said, you are all cowards, and we're going to have to live with this for the rest of our lives because of you. Because of this action. And that's exactly what I was sitting there feeling and saying as I'm watching the video. All of y'all, everybody there is responsible for those kids. Whether they call themselves cops or just men. They died on your watch. And I was sitting here thinking, like, I know there are people that are not trained. Not trained. That if they had the same amount of men and the same amount of armor, same amount of guns, they'd have went in there and got that kid up out of there. May have lost a couple men, but you wouldn't have lost as many kids. I'm talking untrained, brave-hearted civilians would have got that done without protocol, without no structure, without no, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? We're going to stop this dude from murdering children. That's what we're going to do next. That should have been the only theory, the only thought, rather, any man had in that building. And to see them be hesitant, to see them look around, to see the indifference in the eyes of one or two of those guys where they just sitting there like, well, man, I'm at work, so I'm waiting for Sarge to tell me what to do. And if he doesn't tell me what to do, then it's like, where's the humanity in the men? That's what I'm looking for. Where's the humanity in the men? You know you are in an elementary school. You know he's in there shooting. There's nothing but children there. Where are you? So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, there are a lot of people to blame. There's a lot of people to look at, a lot of people to be frustrated at and all of this. But I'm honestly just looking at the men. Just the men in the room. I don't care about protocol. After a while, it becomes a situation where, where's your heart at, grown man? That's what it really comes down to. That's what I have to ask these cops. You ain't cops no more. You're just men. And those are children. You got guns. And you ain't doing nothing. I don't want to hear about training. I don't want to hear about nothing. I want to hear about human beings and what they can live with and what they cannot live with. And those men, they were able to live with that. They was cool. And I would not be. I don't know how they live in. I don't know how they sleep at night. I don't know how they sleep at night. So I just wanted to put that out there, man. After seeing that footage, that's exactly what needed to be said on my part. Like I said, you never know what type of situation you find yourself in until you're there. A lot of times people are so afraid of losing their jobs, they don't even let humanity come into play. But as it pertains to that of children, if we're hiring police officers that have a heart to sit in a hallway while children are being slaughtered, they don't need to be hired as cops in the first place. Those are the wrong type of people to hire, period. If that's the type of person that you're putting out there to save us, we don't have a chance. And it was I counted a good 12 men on camera that were hesitant, man. Very hesitant. In the face of something like that, where there needs not be no delay. No delay. Small children. So the outrage is pretty ridiculous in this household in regards to that. Pretty damn ridiculous. I'm hopeful that the outrage will expand past my household, and this conversation will be had further, and that we can see what needs to take place happen, whatever that is. But I can tell you this, after watching the footage, it's hard not to feel really, really disappointed. Really disappointed in just overall the ability of this country to protect our children from situations such as these. I'm just going to put it like that. Let's not leave it at Uvalde. Let's not leave it on the state of Texas. No. Let's zoom all the way out, and let's just be honest. They failed at protecting our children. It's not deeper than that. I send condolences to everybody affected by the Uvalde massacre. I've prayed about it a lot. I will continue to. No one should be pointed at as, responsible for this, more so than the person who came in there and did those actions. But I do believe that there's blood on the hands of everybody that came in there and didn't risk their lives to save those children. And many people will look at that situation and say they did. Well, I'm telling you, as someone who was a guard for 10 years, I beg to differ. I think they made sure they got home safe. And I honestly think they could have cared less about them kids after watching that footage. I think they were more concerned about protecting their jobs and their lives. And as I said, maybe they thought the kids were already gone. Maybe that was the whole point. But I don't believe that's an excuse, given that there were still children alive that survived that situation. I don't think that's even slightly an excuse at all. So I thank you all for allowing me to vent that out. I'm keeping it very timid. To be honest with you, I have much more colorful language. But that's just not the energy I want to put into this video. Not in regards to the passing of children. It's not necessary. The situation itself, it has all the energy it needs. I don't need to add to that. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.